On this week's episode, we are talking about financial inclusion for women. Women make up a majority of the unbanked and underbanked individuals around the world, especially in developing countries. Although they are from, I think they form a larger share of the self-employed category in developing countries. Women have a lower chance of securing credit from banks, and when the credit line is extended, they often have to pay higher interest than the men. So financial inclusion is the ability of underrepresented individuals and businesses to access what's it called now, needed or useful and affordable finance service or services and products that cater to their own actual needs in an equitable and sustainable way. So, and this is irrespective of their location, so let me be precise on that. So financial inclusion covers products and services such as banking, credit, insurance, payments, etc. But to discuss this topic with us this evening is Ibukun Omololu. She is a gender parity advocacy and a financial service professional. She is a gifted public speaker, author, podcaster, seasoned banker. Welcome again, Omololu. Many thanks for joining us in the studio today. Of course, it's more interesting to have a financial professional of this caliber in the studio, especially when you'll be throwing a lot of light on a lot of answers. We have a lot of questions, so you will be helping us to throw a lot of answers in that field. So again, many thanks for joining me in the studio today. All right, so I need you to let my audience know the weight of you in the studio today. And I know that you have about 14 years corporate experience, and you have headed the women banking units of Sterling Bank, and what's it called, the financial sector, and you sharing your experience thus far when it comes to that field.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't know where to start from.
Exactly.
You can start anywhere. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I started my banking career about 14, 15 years ago. And good enough, I started as a teller. I started from the operations end.
Interesting.
And
nice.
Worked my way up the career ladder to middle management roles and doing more team leading and building the business. And somehow I got into women banking, which changed the trajectory of my life totally, because I started to discover more about women. And in discovering more about women, I started to discover more about myself and why women were somewhat limited in terms of their finance and the kind of financial decisions they take. So I basically started up the unit, grew it, built it until it got to a point where I could successfully hand it over to someone else to start running.
All right. Many thanks for that. And I can say that you've done pretty well for yourself, reading about you, doing a bit of research and all of that. I'm so proud of women who at least started from the scratch, and you're able to build a ladder. So my next question is going straight to our topic at hand, which is the financial inclusion and what are the implications for women?
So there's so much implication for women. So let me start with the survey results by IMF. Sometime in 2017, it was discovered that over 60% of women in Nigeria were living in poverty, in despair, and with disrespect. And so for me, it was really eye-opening at that time, because it was funny that women were the ones who were growing older and didn't have much money. They didn't have what we call agency. And agency is basically the ability to be able to take choices and decisions that would help you have more positive outcomes for your life. So I realized somehow that women had very little agency regarding their movement, regarding their access to resources or access to finance, regarding taking decisions even in their own family. And research has proven that when women are when women have money, they're able to put in about 90% of their income back into their families. So the implication is really great, because when you think about it, women are really the financial decision makers in the regard. So they may not particularly be the ones earning so much, but then when it comes to how the funding for the house would be budgeted in terms of groceries, in terms of the children, in terms of feeding, exactly, and managing those funds, it's basically women who take those decisions. It might not necessarily be the man. So I found out that we were the ones taking those decisions, but then we were the ones lagging behind when it comes to finances. Women were getting to older age and do not have financial retirement plans or pensions and insurance and a lot of things. And so it's part of the issues why we have so much it's part of the reasons why we have a lot of disparity, especially regarding gender gaps as well. So I believe personally that when a woman is empowered, they're able to do more. And so it's really important that they're able to do more for themselves, for their families, and for any other thing they have in mind. So it's just so important that women are empowered and they have access to financial services and solutions that efficiently serve them.
Yeah, all right. Many thanks for that submission. So listening to you, because I know that you've spoken about the men and the women, but actually putting more positivity to women when it comes to management of funds. So my question is that what are the challenges of financial inclusion generally for men and women, in our country, particularly to Nigeria?
Fantastic. And I like the angle with which you came with that question because gender in the clear sense of it is both men and women. Mm-hmm. But because women have been marginalized more, the conversation tends to, tilt towards them most of the time. So, but I would like to first of all start that when you design products for women in mind, okay, from research and from experience, we found out that men even take up those products more than the women. And the truth of the matter is, if it works for women, it's going to work for men. If it works for women, it's going to work for men. Basically because women are more difficult to sell to. When it comes to taking decisions, they are the ones who are haggling and negotiating prices. But then when they take a decision about a product that this works for me, if it works for that woman, it would work for men. So I would say some of the biggest challenges really has been, first of all, I would say it would be access to finance. And I'll just say this in no particular order, really. There are quite a number of women who want funding for their businesses. And, there are researchers to show that there are more women who are doing businesses than men, more women entrepreneurs. And so they tend to lack access to finance to actually push up and scale up their businesses. And so what a lot of women do is they are satisfied with being business women particularly, but not particularly business leaders in terms of scaling to global possibilities and the likes. But aside that, another big issue is the confidence level and self-esteem level of women. And one of the research I did with Women's World Bank in working with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation revealed that a lot of women did not have self-esteem and they were not confident of themselves, and they did not consider themselves worthy to actually access financial services or to even open an account. And so that precludes them from even accessing money directly from banks. What they do is they settle more for other informal institutions like the ASUSU, the Microfinance Bank, and the likes. Basically because they feel banking in the real sense is somewhat unattainable for them at that, and so they tend to come down to the other ASUSU and microfinance companies.
Could it be that is based on the pressure being placed on women, especially when it comes to the time? Let's say, for instance, women, men can afford to be in the boardroom till late hour, but women, it's a challenge for us because we multitask on a lot of things. When it comes to managing the home fronts, managing all sorts, even your career, and also having time for yourself. Do you think that could also be part of the challenges when it comes to the growth of women, or women even thinking of being in the banking sector?
It's not exactly. It has some it has some influences. The other reason would be, but based on what you said, it's really also about our culture and the way we were brought up. And so, back in the days, I know when people had to open an account, particularly women, they would ask them, "Oh, come with your husband," or "Who's your father?" and all of that.
You serious?
But then, banking has evolved right now, where anybody can just go on and open an account. But then the way women were brought up, we weren't particularly trained like we could have our own money. People were brought up with the mindset like, oh, the man basically has to cater for everything. And so what you have to do is just focus on your reproductive role, and your family housekeeping role. And it was much later that women started to think of being productive and being included in the formal sectors and as well as the informal sectors as entrepreneurs.
All right.
So,
apologies, I might have to interrupt your line. But let me quickly use this opportunity to open our phone lines. You can call us on 0700 923 923 923. Again, 0700 923 923 923. And of course, you can send us a message on 0817 313 6193. Let's hear your perspective of the topic at hand. My women, those listening to me, this is the time to call so that Ibukun Omololu can share a lot of our resource with us when it comes to our experience and the likes and all of that. So, Ibukun, listening to you, I just feel that the financial inclusion provides opportunity to build savings.
yes.
And what's it called, investments, and also low credits, especially. And don't let me even put the gender in it, but as a gender parity expert, do you feel women are sidelined or marginalized in this situation that we found ourselves in this country? Being honest. So
when you think about some cultures that still preclude women from stepping out 200 meters away from their homes, and when you think about the fact that not every woman has access to education, yes, there is still some form of marginalization, and it's a huge gap, really, I must say. And one of the ways we can bridge that is really financial reorientation and financial literacy, especially for women. I mean, last week I still met with a woman who was lamenting she doesn't have a bank account, she doesn't have any means of ID to open a bank account, and so she has
she's
had
a full housewife.
She is working, but she doesn't have any account. So what happens is somebody else, one of our colleagues gets paid, our money gets paid into that colleague's account, and he's supposed to remit to her. But the story was different. He wasn't always remitting to her. And that's just one out of many. There are so many wives who do not have accounts per se, and they have to use their husbands, and I'm talking from experience. They have to use their husband's account. And it's amazing that woman earns wages that might not eventually come to her because it's somebody else who's taking that money. And so it's just so and that's part of the implications of your mouth is open.
You know why my mouth is open? I feel that the world has evolved and technology has made everything smaller. I know that I'm guilty of certain things. For instance, online banking, I'm still struggling with it. But I just joined online banking, I think, early this year. I'm only signing my checks, giving it to my bank manager, my staff, and all of that. Then I said, even at that, so I could not wrap my head that, okay, maybe that's another level. Kike is scared of online banking. Do you understand? I can tell that I've only used it once or twice. But for you not to have an account, and now be paying the money to another person's account, knowing that anything can go wrong. Let's keep it real. One go against one bossy partner. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Why would the bank embrace such thing? Because you said earlier, I think when we started this conversation, saying that back in the days that they will tell you that you should go and bring your father or your this. Well, if I look at it from another angle, it could be good that they will tell you go and bring your family member so that if anything goes wrong, they can at least trace those people. Like how people sign and say, can you be a guarantor for me or something like that? That's fine. But insisting on the kind of guarantor that you must bring.
So, right now, the truth of the matter is with every solution that we develop, it throws up more problems. And so, yes, banking has evolved and people have access to accounts and
Thanks
a
to
whole lot of,
technology.
yes. But then you find out that in doing that, there's so many other problems that come up. Now, it's not just poverty per se that is the problem, because quite a number of these people who will feel at the lowest retail mass are not able to access financial services because of poverty. I would say there's also a new level of poverty. It's different conditions and facts. It's basically access to resources, it's access to information, and access to make decisions that affect you.
Unlearning and relearning.
Exactly. So there are women who, yes, they have a bank account, but they do not have a say in terms of the kind of career or the kind of economic activity they can engage in to actually, build,
Finance themselves.
Yes, to actually finance themselves. So this poverty is in different forms. There are women who are stifled in their marriages and are like kept women who they are kept on a certain what should I call it now, stipend, and cannot go beyond that. So it varies in different ways. For some people it's access to finances, for some people it's access to agency. Yes, that's what World Bank calls it, the agency, their ability to take decisions that affect you. And it affects us in different ways, because there are cultures in Nigeria that precludes women from administering their husbands, their deceased husband's inheritances if he he falls, if he dies or something. And there are just so many things to it, and so people find themselves at different ends of different points, and it's just different things working for different women.
All right, I'm glad that you mentioned that, and this leads me to the question I want to ask now, is that what is the role of these agencies, this institution, for upscaling the inclusion for women in financial roles, especially when it comes to the banking sector?
So the truth of the matter is there has been a lot of progress that's been made. These institutions provide funding, they provide training, they provide access to information, and I've seen that access to information and opportunities really can change the life of a woman, because you could build wealth and build investment based on the information that you have. So they have been doing quite a lot. However, there have been barriers. There are cultural nuances and norms that have precluded people from, adopting a lot of these things. There are challenges even in the financial sector in terms of how do the banks cater to this set of people, There are challenges in people adopting and, taking on to change. Just like you said you didn't like online banking, and for some women, yes, for some women it's convenience. They're like, oh no, I'm not going to enter the banking or for anything.
I still don't enter the bank.
It's just so it's different strokes for different folks, really. And so these agencies really do try. I must confess, they try to get access to funding, access funding for women at low interest rates, because these are barriers for women to access funding. But then the other thing is, another research I did revealed that women have very low self-efficacy, the belief that they can actually do a lot of things in themselves. And this really borderlines on why a lot of women have imposter syndrome as well. So that low self-efficacy affects them in terms of their businesses, in terms of their jobs, in terms of so many things. So for example, we are the ones who go to the market and we're negotiating prices. But then we find it difficult to negotiate for a raise when we are with our bosses, so there are different things that are working, and it's really all about reorientation. It's really all about training, education, and basically changing a lot of mindset when it comes to money.
All right, many thanks for that submission. I think that this might be my last question to you before we go on break, and it's about you've shared a lot thus far, and I'm asking, how do we track all the support, all the effective support from all these agencies and institutions, and the women who have chosen not to use the available financial products that you have given to them? How do you follow up with them with everything that you've shared thus far?
Well, financial institutions have a way of monitoring. Thank God we have records and all, people opening accounts and all of that. So, and the agencies are very particular about the numbers. So in terms of account uptaking and onboarding, what are the numbers that are actually taken. In terms of the training, they also try to find out okay, after this training, have women accessed loans? Have they actually taken up your account? And what have they gone on to do after that? Because it's not just about training them to access funds. It's also about helping them to use those funds efficiently. Exactly, and monitoring them. And so there's a whole lot that financial institutions can do to monitor and get the numbers. And yes, the numbers have been coming in, even though we could do better. I believe with more orientation, with more attention thrown in this space, and really it's getting bigger. There's almost everywhere you go, there's something about gender and all. The truth of the matter is the numbers would still keep coming in. The other thing I would like to say is that most of the time we're also focused too much on just onboarding them in terms of accounts and everything. There are other areas the financial institutions could also go into, and that was one area where we're big in terms of advocacy for domestic violence, in terms of advocacy for cervical cancer, breast cancer and all, because those are basically part of the fears of women that also stifles them and also increases the gender gap.
All right, many thanks for that again. Listening to you, I feel that sometimes the women we struggle with, just like you said about Bill Gates and Melinda. I spoke about low self-esteem. So I feel that not many women are caught out for all these white collar jobs. So how does the institution, look for how to create like all these SME programs that can help, to support some of the women who are out there? How do you create awareness on that in that angle when it comes to financial services?
Awesome. So you asked Button about that. The representation of women in the informal sectors who are basically entrepreneurs is about 52% as opposed to 48% of women in formal sectors. So what financial institutions have done, and particularly in our own case, was to organize SME trainings, academies, where women could come and really learn about bookkeeping. And that's another barrier to finance, because a lot of these entrepreneurs are doing businesses but do not really have records. They've not put in structures in their businesses in terms of, I have registered my business and it's a separate entity entirely from me. So Ibukun Omololu is Ibukun Omololu, but Ibukun Omololu & Co. is an enterprise that has been registered under the laws of Nigeria, and I've opened an account and I'm using it, and I have stocks. I'm able to, have inventories, taking a lot of things, and so those are trainings that we've seen that women should be able to have and learn from. The other thing I would say is also psychologically the psychological and effect of money in terms of what is your money mindset. And I found out, and that's some new area that I got into when we were in banking, because we do a lot of research. And one of the things we found out was that, yes, we were training the women, but it's a different thing for people to accumulate knowledge and people to actually use the knowledge that we are trained them with to actually make positive changes for their lives. And so we had to delve down into, okay, what were the issues? Some of it was really about, some people just had the mentality that the money is part of the national cake. I get it. And, I abscond with it. So it wasn't really about trying to use it well. Yes. And some had the mentality like, I get this money, but I'm not even confident enough to use it or to pay it back. And so I realized it was a whole lot of work, and we had to start, doing the nitty gritty of how do we teach these people about self-confidence. Yes. About how money works, about their money DNAs, basically, and all of that. And so I've been doing quite a lot of training on that. Aside that, some actually do want the money, but they really do not know how to access these funds. So they feel like I have applied for funds in the bank and then I was rejected, and then they take it personal. But the truth of the matter is there was some step or something they did wrong that somebody probably had to sit down with them with and let them know that, this was why you were rejected.
All right. President Buhari is seeking to borrow another $6.1 billion from bilateral and multilateral organizations. to fund is it deficit in the 2021 budget, and I heard that our country's debt stock keeps piling up. So the question is, what with your banking experience, what's the implication of this on our economy and how to move our country forward? What's your take on it, Ibukun?
So this is entirely my opinion.
All right.
Getting that funding really, I wouldn't say.
Hold your thoughts. We have a caller on the line. Hello, what's your name and where are you calling from? Thank you for calling. Thank you for breaking the silence. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. What's your contribution on the topic at hand today?
This Liz is calling from Yaba.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a small scale business. I'm asking, how do I grow my business to make it? The business is really moving, but it's so stressful.
What kind of business do you do, ma'am?
It's baking business.
Okay. Do you have a shop? Do you have somewhere where you bake or you operate from home?
Yes, I have a shop.
Okay.
I bake and I sell. And if I get workers, they don't last. They just leave. I don't leave because of the stress of the business. I don't know, how do I grow the business?
Okay. So what I hear you say is that you have a baking business and you want to grow the business. So I would like to there are a whole lot more questions I would like to ask, like what's your customer base? How often do you bake? Your target audience, what products gives you the most returns, when do you have peak seasons and all. I don't know if you have all of that done, and these are part of the things we're talking about. Do you have records? How does money come in? Is it coming into your own account? Are you depleting the revenues of the business?
Into something else?
Are you using it as well? So there's a whole lot of questions I would like to ask, but what I would say first of all is that it would be good for you to be able to answer these questions, because you just don't want to grow the business if there is there demand right now for what you're doing. As the demand increased, and is that why you want to scale up, or you just want to scale up? Because there are different levels to this, and it's also about.
I'm saying, my first point is, how do I scale up and make it less stressful?
So those are the questions we are trying to ask you. I think that the most important thing is that please try to listen in. After the show, she will share a handle with you, so you can also follow up with her, so that all of this can be discussed. So look at the questions she's there, especially when it comes to employing the right people, because sometimes those people can drag you back. You can lose money, you lose time. But I think the most important, go ahead.
So I'm not sure if she's actually employed people. I can't say, I can't be certain, but for her to be saying that she's stressed, I think she's probably doing quite a whole lot, and it's getting too much for her, and she's looking for how to scale. But then it's not. I hear that a lot from women, that they want to scale, but the truth of the matter is you can't just scale if you're not clear about your numbers or what it is you want to scale into. Because if you don't know your target audience, if you don't know what your current numbers are, how many customers are you servicing, how many cakes are being baked daily or monthly, how many is going out as the demand increases. Exactly, it could be bread as well, because I know for certain that quite a lot of people do not sell so much of that cake. So it could be bread. So and those are other areas you might want to diversify in. It doesn't necessarily have to be just cake. It might be pastries as a whole, bread, donuts, and so many other things. So there's a whole lot to that question. So
going back to our question, with your own banking experience, what is the implication of the money, the loan that our president have just borrowed on our economy now? What do you think is going to happen to us here? Because all this thing affects us all, Ibukun. Oh yeah. What do you think?
Well, we hope the money will be used for what we believe they've used it for. But to be honest, no. So what do you want me to say? But to be honest, I wouldn't say that you should have borrowed that money. There's a whole lot of inefficiency in the system that if we just sit down to address, we just would be able to, make a lot of differences and all that. But the truth of the matter is that be that as it may, the inflation rate has really gone up.
Yeah.
It's really hard for quite a lot of people right now. The government would definitely want to inject funds into the society and into the economy to try to, buffer things up. And I guess that is what he is trying to do. But there's so many aspects and different angles to it as well.
I don't agree with your submission, but I think you're trying to trade carefully, but it's okay. You've said so much thus far, Ibukun Omololu. Because I can pronounce your name well, I've just been calling it back with telling.
I can see.
Once I pronounce your name once, I will not pronounce it. So in terms of finance, you've been sharing so much in terms of finance and management, bookkeeping, time management, knowing your target audience, inclusion of women thus far in our conversation. So just on a lighter note, because I know that we're running out of time now, how does Ibukun balance being a wife and being a mother and even being a sister, even being a daughter, with all the demands of your profession and everything that you're doing?
Let me first of all say that I have very solid support structures. And it wasn't always like this, but right now I have really solid support structures, starting from my husband. I'm not living a competitive life with him. He totally buys into what I'm doing. He wants to see me succeed. So there are times when I have to step back and he steps in. I remember there were days when I couldn't attend PTA and he would want to attend PTA. There were days when I couldn't take the boys for their immunization shots, and it's the one who's taking them to the immunization shots. So we have I have a good partner. Aside that, I have a fantastic nanny, a fantastic driver, and those are things I tell women that if you can outsource this, it really helps for you to outsource it, because it all boils down to your health, your mental well-being, and a whole lot of other things.
And your productivity.
Exactly. And I also have fantastic network. I have good friends. I have good women networks.
And you want to unwind.
Exactly. Because it's part of it.
You're right.
So putting all of that together really worked. I think the last thing would also be the work policy at my last organization was really, really good and women-centric. They had different things for women, particularly new mothers, particularly business owners, because they supported people. Yes, they supported staff to also have their own side also, and
that's a good one.
Yes, well, in the technical sense of it, the business was still coming to the bank, so there was still money coming in. There was a business angle to it as well. So different things that really helped me to work, to write my book, to do a whole lot of other things. So I wouldn't say I'm a superwoman. It's just because I have amazing structures.
All right, many thanks for that. It's really nice sharing your wealth of knowledge with us and your expertise, especially on the show today. And of course, I know quite a number of women have gone on that to say, let me take my notes now from what you've shared. Many thanks again for joining us in the studio. Okay. All right, so this is where we close. We draw the curtains of the show. But before I go, it's important for me to share Omoluabi personality for our closing remarks, and that it's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, or how hard it works for you, or how many generations you keep it for. And this is quite important for us to always remember this. When it comes to keeping money for generation, I don't really believe in that. If we transfer property to, just for the sake of Robert Kiyosaki.
Really?
I don't believe in transferring wealth, because I think that's part of the challenges we face today. When our children believe, that there's something mommy and dad is going to give us that is not making them concentrate on developing themselves. And we'll talk about this after the show. We need to round up. All right, this is where I draw the curtains of the show. I might say this, but all the things I'm doing for my children. But hey, the woman that she share.
Can you imagine?
All right, I have to be real. I have to balance it for those listening to me. So work for your children, but at the same time, let your children understand every cover that you are working for, and for them to also understand that they must define their lives and they must not rely on their parents' wealth. And that is where I draw the curtains of the show. Many thanks, Ibukun, for joining me again. And I say bye now. You've been on Real Talk with Kike.